Hello, and welcome back to Lab Tech Training. Today's topic will be on groups in Lab Tech and on patch management. Let's bring up our console and expand the groups. Now, the first thing I want to point out, groups in Lab Tech are very analogous to OUs in Active Directory, by which we apply attributes to a group, and all group members and subgroup members will get those attributes. I'm going to double-click a group, and this brings up the group editor. Let's take a little time to go through these fields and just make sure we understand what everything is and what it does. Again, name of the group is pretty self-explanatory. Master group. Okay, the idea of this checkbox is if a computer is a member of a master group, it will be forcibly removed from all other non-masters. Now note that the checkbox has three states. We turn off the master group, we click to turn on the master group, we click a third time and we get this solid button. What this means is that this is not going to act like a master group. It will not steal other groups' members based on its own membership. However, it will not allow other master groups to steal members from this group. Auto join search. Let's bring our console back for a moment. Now you'll notice all my auto searches is my list of searches. Okay, whatever you select will automatically populate the group based on the search criteria. For example, if I come down here and I select Windows servers, all machines that are Windows servers that are reporting in will become a member of this service plan group. Limit to search. Probably doesn't make sense in this context. Let's find IIS web server. Okay. So here our auto join search is going to automatically pull all IIS web servers that are reporting into our LabTech system and force it to become a member of this group. Okay. Limit to search. Now the default behavior, no limit to search. If it sees a web server, it's going to grab it, it's going to become a member. If it stops being a web server, it will stay in this group. This checkbox changes that behavior so that a machine, if it no longer fulfills the criteria of this search, will be ejected from the group. Template. We talked about this in the context of restricted VNC. Select a template, and this template will be assigned to all group members. Maintenance window. Again, that's something we've already discussed. Go ahead and select a maintenance window to apply. Now, going forward, all group members will have the Hotfix reboot maintenance window applied to them. Let's move over to the scripts. Another attribute that we can assign to a group, script runtimes. Use the pull down to select a script. Group policy force update. Here's our frequencies. Run every week or every day. If we select a day of the week, it will run every week on Sunday. If we leave this on every day, well, then that's how it's going to run. Note that we can select month, year, etc. Here's a time for it to execute as well. Limit to. Again, just as with the auto join searches, this is a complete list of our searches. So maybe I want to limit this to Windows servers. Add. Going forward, all group members of the service plan group that are Windows servers will run the group policy force update script. Now, why might we want to use this limit to? Why would I add anything other than a Windows server to this group? Rather than dragging and dropping an entire computer into the group, you just dragged and dropped an entire client. Okay, well, you don't want that group policy script to run on every machine here, just the servers. Okay, that would be a good use of this limit to. I call that the secondary criteria. And the primary, obviously, being group membership in the service plan group. Software. This tab essentially does the same thing as the scripts, but it's focused on all the scripts that are in our software group. Okay, let's go ahead and select a piece of software. Again, how often do we want to run this script? We can run this every day or once a week. And again, another limit to. In this case, it probably makes sense to install this application on Windows workstations. Add. Next, let's go over to the internal monitors. And I'm actually going to close this out because it doesn't make sense to apply monitors to a service plan group. Probably makes more sense to do it under a service plan group. So I don't get the OEM default assignments, I'm just going to right click and add a group, double click the new group, and let's go back to the internal monitors. Okay. Again, this is only going to apply to all group members, but as stated earlier, an internal monitor needs to be assigned to at least one group, or it's going to be a global monitor. If excessive alerts detected is such a monitor. In fact, let's look at that. Monitors, internal monitors, excessive alerts detected. If I double click it, I should see no groups listed in this box, and sure enough, I don't. All the other ones will have some sort of group assignment. Okay, and again, a global monitor means simply that it's going to run on each and every computer that's reporting into our LabTech system. I can double click one of these monitors and change the monitor setting and the alert template. This is really what defines our product set. Come back to that in a moment, but for now I'm just going to select to enable. I will select my 24/7 alert template. I will click save. Notice that this updated. And what this does is basically means all members of the new group under service plans will have the auto services stopped internal monitor applied to that machine. This will also apply to subgroups, so that if there was a new group underneath new group, that setting will also be applied here. This will be inherited. We can also right click and edit settings. Does the same thing as double click. It allows us to modify that field. Remote monitors. Let's go ahead and apply one of our remote monitors to a group. Here's that service bits monitor, and as we learned in the monitor section, we can grab, drag, and drop that monitor onto a group. Going forward, all group members will have the bits monitor. Again, remember this limit to conditional. Maybe this is a service that we only run on servers. So in this case, all group members that are Windows servers will receive this monitor. A couple things to note here. Interval. How often is this monitor going to run on the target machine? Alert message. It's pretty self-explanatory. Alert template. We can assign the alert template just like that. I'll click save, and there it is. These two fields on the bottom help us sort. Maybe I only want to see all my ping monitors. I don't have any. Maybe I just want to see my system monitors, and there it is. We can also sort by the type of alert template that's applied. If we want to see all our high priority MSP alert templates that are assigned to monitors that are assigned to this group, go ahead and click it. Again, there are none. I selected the 24/7. I'm going to hold off on hotfixes for a moment. I want to just focus on these 5 tabs. Let's talk about how we can most effectively use these groups. On your OEM LabTech, you'll notice that there is a service plan group with different service plan subgroups. Double tap gold, for example. Now what you want, what the goal of a group is to deploy your product set. So we need to make sure all of the monitors, all of the scripts that are applied to this group facilitate your product. Okay, so what does this mean? Well, gold. If I buy from you your gold service plan, that means something. Does it mean that your monitoring auto services stopped? If the answer is yes, make sure that is enabled. Does it mean I'm going to get automatic remediation? If it does, let's make sure that this template is going to apply an auto fix, or the monitor will. I like to, when building a new system, watch what we're going to do here. I'm going to open up monitors. I'm going to go to internal monitors, click monitor name just to make sure they're sorted by name. Select the topmost monitor, hold shift, and select the bottommost monitor. Note we have now selected every monitor, every internal monitor running on the system. I'm going to right click and I'm going to export to Excel. Now, if you're following along, we're going to have to do this on a machine that has Excel installed on it already, because what happens is it just launches Excel and just writes directly to the spreadsheet. Now, the whole point of me doing this was I wanted a list of all the monitors. I really don't care about the rest of this information. Now, what I plan on doing is having 3 product sets available for my customer. And I'll model the lab tech systems, bronze, silver, and gold groups. Now, my next step, I'm going to determine what do these products actually mean. What am I delivering? For example, auto services stopped. Are my bronze customers going to get that? And you know what? No, they're not. I'm going to put a 0 there. Silver. You know what? Yeah, I'll do it for silver and I'll do it for gold. Go through all your monitors and make this assessment. Determine which groups are going to get which monitors. When you're done, come back to the top. Okay? Because anything for which you've checked, you now have to determine what you're going to do when you detect that condition for that customer. For example, your silver customers, maybe alert and ticket. Maybe your gold customers are auto-fixed. And again, continue through this list, populating all the things that you marked as X that you would monitor, and populate what you're what you want to do with it. Next up, you're going to want to add your remote monitors and go through the same process. Okay, but it's very, very hard to build your group structure in LabTech before you know what it is you're trying to do with them. So build your product set first, do it off of LabTech. Once you have this list nailed down, it's a very simple thing at this point. If you understand the concepts of A, how to make a monitor, B, how to apply a monitor to a group, and C, how to assign the alert action, which have all been covered. At this point now, you can just basically, when you're building these groups, it's almost data entry. Okay, because you're going to have your alert template staged, and of course all the monitors are already exposed on the group screen, just waiting for us to enable or disable them. How do you know that you have a good group structure? Very easily. When you sell your product, can you drag and drop the customer into the group, and by doing so, deliver the services that you've promised? If the answer is yes, then that is a good group structure. Do you find yourself making modifications and changes to the groups often? Are you making exceptions every time you onboard somebody? Is it kind of a hassle when it comes to the groups? Well, then maybe that is not a good group structure, and you might want to rethink your strategy. What else can we do with these? Well, when we were discussing templates, you saw me create this restricted VNC. The purpose of this group is to apply the restricted VNC template to all group members. So companies that are members of this group, we cannot remote control to their machine without their permission. I've already made the comparison of these groups to OUs, so when building your structure, use best practices for OU design. Most of those rules will apply to LabTech groups as well. For example, restricted VNC. I don't want that out because I'm probably going to build a whole bunch of other, what we'll call, exceptions. And I really should have restricted VNC nested under exceptions. I'm going to do the same thing with software. Let's add a group. Let's add a group. Let's call this one software deployment and save it. Let's nest this group here, open it, and we'll call this Silverlight. Now if you look in your scripts, software, Microsoft, you'll see a Silverlight deployment script. Let's go ahead and apply that to this group. Double tap Silverlight, open the software tab, select the script you want to run. Here's Silverlight. We're going to check every day, 8:30 in the morning, and we are going to limit this to Windows workstations. Add. Okay, and I'm going to close this. This group is done. Now, could I have added this to the service plan group or maybe to the gold group? Sure, of course. But that kind of scares me a little bit because it assumes that everybody that is going to purchase my gold service plan is going to want Silverlight deployed. And while that may well very be the case, okay, I can't ensure that going forward. What happens if I have a customer that says, you know what, give me the monitoring from the gold service plan, okay, but don't deploy Silverlight for whatever reason? Well, I'm kind of stuck here, okay, because I had assigned the Silverlight here, or how do I make this so it doesn't apply to that one customer? Well, in truth, we could take this Windows workstations, double click. I could add a condition that says the client not equal to, and then select my exception, Windows workstations not at LT Workshop. Save. Click the group and select the limit to conditional. Bam. Okay. Now, that would work. Okay, but you notice it's a little bit of a hassle. This is not a method that's going to scale very well. What happens when my next customer does it, then I have to append to the search. That concerns me a little bit. So what I usually suggest is create specific groups on specific product offerings. Now, yes, this may make your onboarding a little extra. They wanted restricted VNC, so I'm dragging them in there. They wanted the gold service plan. They wanted Silverlight deployment. Your onboarding might be adding to 4, 5, or even more groups. But this gives you the granularity when a customer asks for an exception to be able to provide that. If LabTech Workshop no longer wants Silverlight software, we'll just remove them from this group and it's done. I don't have to restructure my groups or create new searches. At this point, you might be beginning to understand the amount of complexity that can be involved here with different clients and different groups. The next logical question would be, well, how do I confirm that the settings I intend to land on a specific computer are, in fact, landing on that computer? You don't want to make that assumption and then wait for a customer phone call to tell you that you're not delivering a service. We want to look at this directly. I'm going to expand Gold because I want to open up the computer that's in the Gold service plan. I want to make sure that as a result of this group membership, what I expect to happen is actually being applied. I'm going to do this by clicking the Effective Policy tab. This tab opens this window that shows me what impact the groups are having on this computer. I can see I am automatically joining these 3 groups. I can see I'm a member of these 7 groups. As a result of being a member of all agents, I'm going to have the default template assigned to me. Let's continue our discovery here. Templates. Which ones are automatically applied? And which ones are manually applied? Now, current config will show me the configuration of the remote machine via the templates that have been assigned. Okay, this might be a hard view to look at. We can see the exact same thing by clicking Begin, Edit Configuration. I'm going to click that and this window is going to appear. It looks like a template, but it's actually the resultant set of LabTech templates on this computer. I can see the server is going to report into this IP address. Here are my branding settings. Here are my access modes. Note that the VNC mode is set to ask then deny. And this is because I am a member of the exceptions restricted VNC group. We can make changes to this screen. This assumes you have the credentials, the rights in the system to do it, but we can go ahead and change that to silent and save it. Okay, but just as in an Active Directory environment, if there is a machine policy to deploy with, say, WinZip, and you're a local admin, so you uninstall it, you know what's going to happen. It's just going to come back down again. Well, that's what's going to happen to this template. Next time we push down templates to our remote machines, the setting I just changed is going to be overwritten back to the group pushed template. And so you know, expand admin, schedules, open up a schedule, update configuration. This is the mechanism that sends the templates out. So I made a change to it, and I will expect next time the clock hits 9 a.m., that change I made is going to be reset back. Update config is a command that we can run via the context menu on a client, a location, or individual machine. This is also a command we can run from the begin button. Scripts will show us which scripts are set to automatically run. If we expand the script, we will see the group that is issuing the script. Monitors. Our remote monitors, our internal monitors that are assigned, and the template that is associated with that monitor. In the beginning, when you're setting up your groups, make sure to populate the groups as you see fit. Okay, and then make sure we come back to this effective policy tab just to ensure that you are indeed setting these parameters properly. So let's put this together. What I'm going to do is show you how to enable local caching. We're going to have to call a template and apply it by the group. Expand admin, expand templates, right-click templates, and select to add a new template. Let's call this template Enable Local Cache. I am going to click the Folders and Cache tab. I am going to click to enable the bottom 6 checkboxes. For the cache directory, I'm going to press F2 and I'm going to select Drive. Pressing the Enter key will write that to the field. I'll do the same thing for username, except I'm going to use the admin username. Cache password is going to be admin password. Now, as this template is only intended to enable local cache, now that I've done that, I'm not going to make any changes to any of the other tabs. I'm just going to add this template to my system. Next, let's go ahead and add a group. Let's name it the same. Let's apply our template. And let's go ahead and save this. Now, for me to enable a local cache at the LabTech workshop, my first step is I'm going to double-click the location. This opens up the location editor. Remember, in the template, when it asked us for our drive, we put %drive%, right here, drive. That is going to reference this field. Enter a UNC path to a locally available server. Next step, deployment and defaults. Login to use for the administrator access. You have to have one selected here because that is what is going to be referenced by admin username and admin password. Now you could change those fields to username and password, and we will reference the username and passwords fields here when accessing this UNC path. But as we should have these admin credentials assigned to each and every client and location by this pull down, we shouldn't have to do that. Plus, these are going to be clear text. So that's probably a bad idea to store them here as well. Okay, let's assume that I have a login here. I have set my drive path here for the UNC. So now I just need to grab the location, drag to the Enable Local Caching group, and drop it. Now going forward, any machine that is a member of the main office will use this path as the local cache. Essentially what that means is when a Windows update, when a download directly from our LabTech server or from a third-party web server is initiated, only the very first machine at the location will get it from the source. It will copy that file to the UNC path that we put in that drive field, and all subsequent accesses to that file will be handled by that local cache. Now this is a good method because it makes sense in terms of every machine at this location is on a local subnet. So theoretically, every machine at that location can access this UNC path. And this is how to use templates in correlation with a group to enable local caching for your customer sites. Let's talk about hotfixing in LabTech. How do we patch remote machines using this system? I've opened a target computer here, and I'm going to click the Patching tab. This is going to list each and every patch that should be on this machine, whether it's installed or not. Note that the KB article, hotfix category, hotfix severity, and the hotfix title all come from Microsoft. Okay, so we do not set these, we just parse what they tell us. As mentioned on our first session, we can right-click a specific hotfix and click to install that patch. This, as the pop-up says, will install that patch right now. Well, let's go ahead and approve this fix. Note the hotfix approval is now set to approved, where it was set to not set. What does this mean, and what should I expect? Well, when a hotfix is approved for a machine, that means that hotfix will be installed during the next available patch window. Where's the patch window? Well, that's actually set on the template. So let's open the config on this machine with the Edit Configuration button to see what our setting is. Click the Schedules tab and note the hotfix install window is displayed here. By approving this hotfix, this says next Friday at 1 o'clock in the morning until 12 o'clock noon, go ahead and install hotfixes. Any hotfix that is assigned to this computer as approved that is not installed will be installed at that time. Now note, LabTech will not try to reinstall an previously attempted hotfix. What this means is if this hotfix tries to install and fails for whatever reason, maybe the Windows updater isn't applied or maybe a dependency isn't on the machine, okay, obviously that install process is going to fail. It's not going to automatically, magically just work because we did it from the LabTech console. All the normal Microsoft hotfix rules still do apply here. Okay, what we're saying is that when we attempt to install a hotfix, if it fails the install, during the next available hotfix, we are not going to try to reattempt it. What you'll need to do is clear the hotfix. This will clear the hotfix pushed field as well as the hotfix approved field. Remediate as necessary, and then you can approve the hotfix again or simply install it now. Let's talk about this pop-up, what they do, what to expect. Remove hotfix, essentially the same as approve hotfix, just the other way around. If a hotfix is installed and it is selected, its approval is to remove, during the next available hotfix window, that patch will be uninstalled. Clear hotfix. This will clear the hotfix pushed and the approved status. Ignore hotfix. This will cause a hotfix to not be deployed to the customer, nor will that hotfix impact our health report. deny hotfix, that's something we'll talk about in a moment. Also, please note these two buttons. Open KB article. This will open up a browser and bring you to Microsoft's webpage where they discuss that specific hotfix. Download patch file. That will download to your workstation the hotfix that is highlighted. Okay, you'll have the raw executable and you'll be able to do your testing from that. Okay, so this is how we can manage hotfixes on an individual machine. But managed services is more than managing one computer. It's about managing groups and about providing rules for those groups so we get the desired outcome. As mentioned, this is going to be done with a group. Notice the Windows Updates group. Now, before we get into the groups and hotfixes, don't forget, if you open up a client, go to the Info tab, you have this Enable Patching checkbox. Simply hit the checkbox to check it and select your hotfix window. Now, going forward, all group members will automatically have all available hotfixes approved and deployed to them on Friday. Okay, but if you don't want to use this list, we can use a group. Now, simply grab, drag, drop a customer into a group, open the group, go to the Hotfix tab, and approve a hotfix. All members of the group that fit the operating system description that do not have the particular hotfix will have it installed again during the next available patch window. A couple things to talk about on this screen. First, you may notice that I only have Windows 08 and Windows 7 hotfixes available here. There's no Windows 2000, Windows XP. This is because the only two machines I have reporting in are Windows 08 and Windows 7. Okay, so LabTech is only going to show me the hotfixes that are pertinent to my existing client set. If a Windows XP machine were to join my LabTech server, I would then begin to see Windows XP hotfixes. So when you're looking at this screen, you can be sure that the only hotfixes that you need to concern yourself with are the ones that are listed. Now I got a little problem here. I have two customers. Acme requested hotfixing management along with LabTech's workshop, but Acme asked not to have IE8 deployed to them. Well, I want to manage their hotfixes, but as IE8 comes down in a hotfix, I'm in a little bit of a quandary. LabTech Workshop has asked for all hotfixes. Acme Incorporated has asked for that one exception. Well, that's where that deny comes in. I'm going to expand the deny rules and show that there is a deny IE8 group. Let's go ahead and move Acme into that group. Why? Why does this solve the problem? Well, remember, I'm going to be approving all my hotfixes on this group level. Okay? All those approvals will apply to all group members and subgroup members. As Acme is a subgroup member, those approvals will cascade down, except for, and I just opened up the deny IE8 group, these IE8 pushes that have been blocked via the deny action by this group. So Acme is going to get all the hotfixes I approve, excepting ones that are denied in this list. Think of it like rights in NT or Windows. If you give me explicit permission to a folder and you explicitly deny me permission to that folder, what is my result? Permission. It is denied. Same thing is happening here. We approved it up here, but this deny acts as a little umbrella. So anybody in that subgroup will be covered by these blocks. Here's another way that we can manage hotfixes. I showed you how to click on the extra data field to go ahead and automatically just push all the hotfixes to all the machines on the floor. I showed you how we could populate a group and selectively apply specific hotfixes, presumably the ones we've vetted. Okay. We can also use the Patch Manager button up here. I'm going to click it, and let's talk about this this box for a moment.
The Patch Manager in LabTech was designed to be a one-stop view of all our current hotfix update statuses. We can show you what hotfixes are applied, which ones are not applied, and we also give you the tools from this screen to go ahead and deploy them. Well, before you jump in, there's a couple of pull-downs that you're going to want to know about it. We're going to overview this. There is a video out on this Patch Manager that explains all of the buttons in much greater detail. But let's just talk about how we're probably going to be using this. Okay. Listing style. This is the first pull down that you should be aware of. Now, what we change this list, our list will update as appropriate. For example, I'm going to change the missing updates, and now notice I have 42 pages of them. And what this describes is missing updates are updates that should be on target machines, yet are not on our machines that are reporting in to our system for whatever reason. I'm not interested in seeing the missing updates, but I would like to see the critical updates that are missing. So I'm going to select this option. Notice my view updates. I now have 23 pages of missing updates. Okay. We can select all updates, and whether they're applied or not on machines that are reporting into LabTech, they will appear here. Let's go ahead and change this view back to missing critical updates. Maybe I'm only interested in seeing them for a particular operating system. That's what this pull down is for. If I select Windows 7, again my list updates, and only Windows 7 appropriate hotfixes will list in this view. I can use the pull down and select another operating system. I'm going to click 2008 here, and notice now we have Windows 2008 patches and a couple more pages. Okay, but this list is only showing hotfixes that are missing from 2 operating systems. I'm going to uncheck these by clicking them again, and now we go back to our global list. I can also approve based on group membership. Selected updates, all the critical updates in the list, or all of them in the list. Clicking this button, for example, will set every single hotfix that is listed here as approved on the gold plans.gold group. And if you want to just see that real quick, service plans gold. Be aware that we also have a right-click context menu option. I can right-click, I can install a patch now. I can approve the patch. Again, clicking approve patch is going to impact the group that we have selected here. I can ignore a patch. Now, let's go ahead and globally ignore this 35SP1 for .NET. And it is now removed from the list. We will never see that globally ignored patch on our list again, regardless of what listing style we have. If I want to see which patches I have ignored globally, I am going to use this pull down and select ignored updates. And here's our patch. And maybe I'm ready to go ahead and deploy it now. I will right click and global ignore remove. Now that I've clicked it, it is removed from the ignored updates list. If I go back to my missing updates list, there's our .NET. Also, please be aware that ignored hotfixes will not impact your stats for the daily, weekly, or monthly health reports. It probably would be a good idea. I'm not going to talk about products here. I'm just going to assume we're servicing all of our customers at the same level of service. It probably wouldn't be a bad idea to access this screen after your hotfix deployment day to ensure that patches have gone out. Now, of course, they're not going to deploy to machines that have not yet turned on since we approved the patch, but it is always a good thing to keep on top of the computers you're responsible for, and in regards to hotfixing, the Patch Manager is the best way to do it. What I like to do is after a few days that I've approved the patch, if I don't see it being applied, what I do is select the ones that I care about, actually go to missing critical updates, and change my options so my page size is 999. Notice I now have one page. I'm going to select the topmost item, Now I have a lot because I haven't approved any hotfixes in here. I'd like to think your system has considerably less in here, but I held shift and clicked the bottom option, just like in File Manager. That selects the topmost, bottommost, and every item in between. Right click, and we can install that patch right now. So that's the Patch Manager in LabTech. Now with our remaining time, I'd like to just talk about LabTech kind of at the 40,000 foot view. Talk about what our next steps are, what we want to do, what we don't want to do, how we can make this tool work best for us in our business. Okay, let's start about what not to do in LabTech. I would not delete any of my OEM groups. You might not be aware, the All Agents doesn't really look like it does anything. If I open it, I don't see any monitoring. I don't see us doing any software pushes through it. Okay, so I might be tempted to delete it, but that would be a mistake because the All Agents group is responsible for pushing out the default template. Okay, so are there other groups that are built into your system that do have functionality even if you don't know what it is? Absolutely. And again, until you are at the point with LabTech where you know exactly what's going on, I would not be deleting any of the existing groups. Okay? Don't delete any of the templates either. I'm going to expand admin templates. Okay? If you don't think you're ever going to push a Windows update on Thursday, don't go ahead and delete it. You're not going to make your LabTech system any faster by deleting templates, but you might end up sabotaging your setup. Again, there may be dependencies in here that you're just not aware of, but work transparently, and you'll miss them when they stop working. The extra data fields on the client object, for example. Go ahead and make changes this way, select the appropriate item, but I'm going to click Dashboard and select Config, Configurations, Additional Fields. Okay, here are the additional fields, the extra data fields that are visible on my client screen. Should I make changes to these? Well, you can say I'm never going to use this and go ahead and remove them. Again, I would not do that. Okay, just leave them be. They're not going to hurt anything. You're not gaining anything by removing them. You're only just potentially sabotaging your own LabTech setup. Now, there are changes we are going to want to make. Okay, for example, you've seen that I've opened up the default template. It's probably a good idea to enable the server address here. Like so. Okay. It might also be a good idea to put a semicolon and put the IP address of your LabTech server. This way, if your customer's DNS fails, your LabTech agent will fail over to the second address here, which of course is the same thing as your fullyqualifieddomain.com. Another thing that I highly recommend changing as soon as you can on your LabTech system: install a Cert. You're going to need a certificate that works without an end-user prompt. Basically, you want a Cert like the bank offers. I go to their site, and it's just secure. I don't get prompted to install a certificate. If your agent is prompted to install a certificate, it won't do it. It'll just kind of sit at that prompt and never communicate with the target machine. Yes, you can sign your own Cert and pre-install them on every machine, and then that way there will be no prompt for the Cert, but it's a dangerous house of cards to build. Just go ahead and get a Cert. They're pretty cheap these days. Okay. And of course, open and forward port 443 from your LabTech server's edge device. What other changes should we make on this default template? Well, this is where our branding is going to happen. Change the tray text so that when a user hovers over, they see your text. Right now, by default, it says LabTech Network Monitoring Software. Okay, that should be branded for you. The service display name. Again, in the list of services, it's going to say LabTech. It should say the name of your company. Go ahead and make the change here. Update the icon. We like our logo a lot, but you're probably more interested in branding your own business rather than ours. Make sure you upload an ICO file, okay, that have enough colors to show on a Windows 7 machine. Do not upload 24-bit color icons. That tends to be problematic. Okay. What else should we change on the default template? I would say nothing. Perhaps access messages if they're going to be globally provided. Okay, but access modes, this is something that would not make sense. By default, LabTech gives us full rights as much as possible. And they have to be turned down in order for us as technicians driving the system to not realize full rights on a target machine. Not that you won't need to change the access mode, but if you do it, you need to do it in a way demonstrated here. You saw me build this template earlier that restricts VNC access and assigns it to a group. And by having membership in that group, you get that template. Don't change any of the existing templates. Windows updates Friday. Okay? It does not make much sense to come in here and set this to any other day than Friday. Nor does it make sense to apply your branding here. Okay? Don't apply your access modes here. This template is only used to apply a Friday day as the hotfix window. I also would recommend not modifying any existing searches. Okay? Again, they are in play in the system. They're behind the scenes. You might not realize how important these searches are, but I can assure you that your system uses many of these searches right out of the box. Now, notice I have added an extra search. Okay, that's the recommended way to do it. There's two ways you can add a search to the system. You can either click Search, go to Advanced, and build your own search, or you can just double-click an existing search and make your changes here. Now, what you like to do when you do it this method, basically make the changes and then change the name and click Save. Note this search is now added to the system. This is a search that I can use, but I haven't impacted the existing OEM search. That way, if my LabTech system is using all computers, which it does do, that functionality will still work, but I still have my custom search. What's a good example of a search that we might want to build? Now, let me show you. I'm going to click Search. I'm going to click Advanced. I'm going to say Client. I'm going to try the second pull down and I get nothing. Not equal to. I'm going to hit the dots and I'm going to select LabTech Workshop. I want the client does not equal LabTech. So what I get is a list of all the computers that are not at the LabTech Workshop. And I'm going to save this. Now, why would I want this? Well, basically, for security. Okay, I want my techs to be able to have access to every client. Okay, but I have every machine internally also on the LabTech system, and I'm not comfortable with everybody having full rights to every machine internally. Okay, so this might be a good search for you to build, and then we can apply rights to it based on group membership. And it's as easy as how I just showed you. Other changes that you're going to want to make. Create an exception group. Add any exception that you expect to have. Here's that restricted VNC group that we built. We built this together, so you already know how to do that. Okay, we'll talk about more of the groups in a second here. So we know what not to mess with. We have an idea of how to begin. Let's talk about how you make your LabTech do what it's supposed to do. This is the question I get quite a bit. People have LabTech, but they're not exactly sure how to drive it, what to do with it, how to make it profitable asset for the company. Okay? Now, the best way to do that is to leverage your groups. I talked about these being OUs. We have assign attributes to a group. All group members get those attributes, right? Well, here's another way to think of a group. These are your products. Okay, each one of these groups is a product or an exception to a product, which very well could be another product entirely. Okay, I have my software deployment group because I'm selling IE software maintenance. Customers of the software maintenance are going to have application delivered to each and every one of their workstations. It's going to be the same application, and we're going to keep it up to date. Okay, and that's one of my products. Okay, I offer monitoring, and I do that through membership in bronze, silver, or gold groups. Okay, so this is where I've actualized my management. I also have a Windows Updates group. This is where I actualize my updates. And the reason why I have these separate is because, well, I don't want to assume every customer that wants a service plan also wants a Windows Update. So in short, how do you make LabTech do what it's supposed to do? Well, the very first thing you need to do to get LabTech to do what it's supposed to do is articulate your product offering. If I were your customer, what would you be trying to sell me? Write those down. Once they're written down, now it's time to actualize them with LabTech. Because what we want is a system where I can add a client to a group, and that's all I need to do to make that customer get the product. Okay? That's your litmus test. How do I know that LabTech is where it should be? When you can onboard a customer, you add a client, and you put them in one or more groups, and that's all you need to do. And they get their product and they're happy. Okay, once you get there, that means that's exactly what we want our LabTech to do. Generally, your product offering is going to be surrounding hotfixing, application management, and operating system maintenance. Generally. Of course, there's going to be other products in there, but that's going to comprise the bulk of it. That should be your first three targets. Nail down the hotfixing, nail down application management, and OS maintenance. You might have to build some scripts to address common problems that you see on a whatever basis. Okay, if you think you're going to be fixing something potentially more than once, well then script it. Very often when I'm troubleshooting, I'll reference an article by Microsoft who tells me to install this or edit the registry or change a file. Yeah, I'm going to do those steps on the target machine, but I'm also going to make a script out of that in LabTech. Now, while I'm doing it to the target machine, it is going to affirm that this is the correct step to perform when there is this problem. And when I see it fixed, I'm going to go ahead and build that same process with a LabTech script. So the next time I see it, I don't have to jump through all those steps. I just send the script to the target machine. In closing, let's talk about best practices for group architecture. Now, as we said at the beginning of the video, we have a whole bunch of extra data fields, okay, and these should be used by first-time LabTechers. Use these for a while. See what it means when you add to a service plan. See what it means when you schedule a health report to be sent to your email address. Use it to enable patching and select a hotfix window. This is the easiest way to get up and running. Okay, but I expect that you probably are going to say, well, that's a lot or even most of what I'm trying to do, but I still need to do a little more. Well, that's going to be done with groups. Groups are intended to be the mechanism by which you deploy your product to your customer. So towards that, the goal is to have clearly labeled groups that only require membership to distribute your product. Now, you saw me drag and drop objects into the groups. We can also automate this process with auto-join scripts. This is the tie-in between groups and searches. Again, I'm going to reference the All Agents group and show you that we have an auto-join search of all computers. That means if the search all computers is detecting you, you are a member of this group. I usually like to recommend that your group design, your product design here, is planned by 3 different internal departments. Okay, you need to have sales in here because sales know which products to push, which products the customers want, and they know what's in demand. They know it works. Okay, the technical group needs to be a part of this conversation, simply because, sales is never going to say something like the DHCP server needs to be working. They just decide that the network needs to be working. And we as technicians know what that means, but we have to actualize it in LabTech because we can't just say, hey, LabTech, make it so the network always works. We have to say, hey, monitor the DHCP server. Look for these specific events. Let me know if this service stops. And finally, you're going to need the management team in here. They're going to provide balance between sales and technical. There's likely some, just simply because of the direction of the roles, sales wants to grab as much share as possible. Technicians, of course, want to be as conservative as possible. So a management group in there to mitigate the two. Please avoid reactionary changes to the group structure. Okay, we've all seen environments where we go into an Active Directory domain and there is one or two OUs and they're doing absolutely everything. There's no structure, there's no nesting. It becomes very, very difficult to manage that network. I bet a lot of us have seen that and had to roll up our sleeves and just take care of it. You can do the same thing with your groups in lab tech. Okay, so they are very powerful. I can just make a group and throw some stuff in it and I'm going to get the desired effect. Well, first time is never going to hurt. Fifth time, maybe there's some conflicts. The 20th time, you got a problem. Okay, so try to avoid reactionary changes and employ only well thought out changes. Make sure there's some sort of blueprint, a design. I know in my system all my exceptions are going to nest under here. I know all my service offerings will nest under here, and so forth. Leverage the hierarchical structure of the groups to simplify deployment and reduce errors. For example, if everybody that gets a service plan is going to have their hotfixes managed by me, well then this is where I'm going to set my approvals. It just makes sense. Now if there's a chance that somebody's going to want a service plan and not want hotfixing, well then I got to split that group out. So in one case it would make sense to leverage the hierarchical structure. Okay, on the other business case, it doesn't. So understand exactly what your business offerings are, how they interrelate. Always try to maintain a simple structure. This is definitely one of those less is more cases. Yes, I know there's a lot of potential complexity in lab tech. We have master groups, we have auto joins, we have nesting. Okay, and yes, it can be built to satisfy a highly complicated company's offerings and still maintain automation. But if you don't need to, don't do it. Okay, maybe even consider changing your product structure slightly to simplify this. Less is more in terms of management costs, in terms of scalability. You are only going to profit from having a bare bones. Groups only do what is needed to be done, and no more. And finally, for best practices, please use the notes field. Notice we try to populate these on our groups, the default groups. We're telling you what the intent of this of the group is and what's going to happen if you become a group member. Well, that's all the time we have for now. I'd like to thank you for your time in attending these training sessions. I hope you found a lot of good, useful information from these videos. I hope you have a good springboard from which to jump into the product. If there's anything that we can help you with moving forward, please don't hesitate to let us know. Thanks again.
We are now ready to book your session number 4 one-on-one training. You will have 30 days from your session number 3 training date to schedule and complete session number 4. Remember that session number 4 is a one-on-one training session for your team with our trainer, so you will not want to miss out on this opportunity to talk about your unique LabTech configuration, business plans, or deployment. Email training@labtechsoftware.com to schedule your session.